The first Sustainable Development Goal is end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Eliminating poverty presents an enormous challenge because we find it almost impossible to imagine a world without poverty. Hi, I'm Dr. Jinki Trevillian, a Senior Lecturer at the Centre for Social Impact, UNSW, and I want us to imagine a world without poverty. Running for re-election in 1987, Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke promised that by 1990 no Australian child will be living in poverty. Despite the fact that Hawke's government reduced the numbers of children living in poverty by 30%, he and others felt that they had failed. Hawke's vain attempt to eradicate poverty illustrates the very important fact that lifting individuals out of poverty does not end the circumstances that create poverty. We experience this same defeat when we give money to someone begging on the street, knowing we are alleviating an immediate need but not ending poverty. If poverty persists in a wealthy country like Australia, how can we eradicate it on a global scale? To meet this challenge, we need to break it down. SDG 1 defines extreme poverty as people living on less than $1.90 a day. This amount is clearly relative, but we can see that when we talk about extreme poverty, it is a matter of bare essentials. The good news, from a purely financial perspective, the SDG's target is certainly achievable. Economist Jeffrey Sachs calculates that the cost of alleviating poverty at approximately $175 billion per year over 20 years is equal to less than 1% of the combined income of the richest countries in the world. No poverty is the very first SDG, and for good reason. We know that poverty makes vulnerable people even more vulnerable. People living in poverty are pushed to the limits of survival and are unable to fulfill their true potential. Poverty is foundational to the second SDG of no hunger, and the two are often found hand in hand. Poverty is exacerbated by all forms of inequality, including gender inequality, and is intimately related to a lack of access to education. Children are disproportionately impacted by poverty, as are women. People in poverty are often the worst affected by natural disasters, economic downturns, illnesses, and violent conflict. At their worst, these disasters cause death or greatly reduce life expectancy. Cataclysmic events compound poverty's effects and cause further impoverishment, thus perpetuating the vicious cycle of poverty. Reducing this vulnerability is an important indicator for SDG 1. At the Centre for Social Impact, we take a systems thinking approach to social problems. This acknowledges the complexity of an issue like poverty and how it is situated within different contexts. Poverty works from the ground up with access to the basic needs a human being has for survival and impacts the environment in which we all live. Seeing poverty as a complex, wicked problem means understanding that the circumstances of poverty are different and multitudinous. Poverty impacts individuals, families, and communities in specific and varied ways. The experience of an elderly woman living on the streets is different to that of a homeless child in the city, just as these are not the same as a family fleeing their land in sub-Saharan Africa. And yet all of these may have experienced violence, hunger, and a sense of abandonment. Poverty is also persistent. Stable government and national prosperity are not sufficient on their own to eradicate poverty. Despite growth and improved living conditions globally, millions of people continue to live in poverty. The traditional role of charity and government responsibility for basic resources to alleviate poverty have improved the lives of many, but these have also not been enough, which is why we need to look at collective solutions. Governments play a significant role in SDG 1, which is why the indicators specify national responsibility for measuring poverty, supplying social protection floors, access to basic services and resources. But it is worth noting that many other organisations are making valuable and essential contributions to addressing sustainable development goals, with over 13,500 businesses and organisations signed up to the UN Global Compact. Business has been at the forefront with the Global Compact Network Australia, seeing 30 companies sign up. Deloitte and PricewaterhouseCoopers have outlined numerous ways in which businesses can meaningfully engage with SDGs. The startup social business Thank You Group chose End Poverty as their flagship SDG, and have invited their consumers to support their vision by directing 100% of profits from their sales to partner organisations such as UNICEF and World Vision. Many of these programs focus on the basic resources of water, sanitation, access to education, healthcare and markets to alleviate the worst impacts of poverty and create capacity within communities. SDG Target 1.4, which asks to ensure that all men and women, in particular the poor and the vulnerable, have equal rights to economic resources, is also at the forefront of financial services. It features, for example, in the SDG Matrix report of the global accounting giant KPMG. Strategies to achieve this target include creative approaches in the social enterprise space. Microfinance is first developed by Grameen Bank, as well as literacy programs and increasing access to digital finance. Participants include banks and not-for-profits. These programs combine access to finance with education to support financial independence. More radical ideas to address poverty are also gaining traction. One is the idea of a universal basic income, where all citizens receive a weekly or monthly payment with no work requirement or means testing. This would see a significant overhaul of our social welfare system and involve courageous innovation. As a response to the unpaid and chronically undervalued work of women and children living in poverty, Oxfam likewise suggests supporting all people with a living wage. Since historically, Australians were leaders in ensuring minimum wages and addressing basic needs as a part of social welfare, perhaps this is not so far-fetched. If we work together, small amounts make a difference on a global scale. Using the example of Unitaid, Caitlin Sotheby of the Borgen Project suggests an incremental tax on global transactions that can fund major projects. What potential does microfinance, digital currency and international banking have for meaningfully redistributing wealth for that $1.90 per day? The phenomenon of digital currency might also provide a new approach to wealth creation and distribution. Mana, based on similar blockchain technology to Bitcoin and developed by People's Currency Foundation, aims to provide a universal basic income in digital currency to everyone. And the best bit, you can easily give your Mana cryptocurrency to someone who needs it more than you. If we have the option for governments and corporations to tax transactions and have an impact on poverty, we also have the option to redirect our finances as individuals through donations and investment. It's easy to feel cynical about billionaires pledging support for reducing poverty, but if not them, and if not us, then who? It is both encouraging and inspiring when someone commits to SDG 1. We can all make small steps to no poverty. We can support programs and innovations everywhere that are doing great work. We can also make ambitious leaps by thinking of new ways to share and create wealth for all. There is no reason to stop at ending extreme poverty. The next aim is the end to all forms of poverty and inequality. But the No Poverty benchmark for SDG 1.1 provides an achievable target for ending extreme poverty by 2030.